So hi everyone, my name is Sharon. Sharon. That's right. I actually didn't mean to make it sound like you mispronounced it, although you did. And I'm the medical director of Figure One. Figure One, for those of you who haven't heard of it, is a medical case sharing platform that's used by over 2.5 million healthcare professionals in 190 countries. And I'm going to talk to you today about how to best get a doctor's attention. And if we think about which industries are most interested in getting a doctor's attention, I think pharma probably ranks pretty high. So there's, I think, a general perception in the world that doctors hate pharma. And if you look at the evidence, you'd be forgiven for thinking that's true. More than half of doctors in the US do not allow pharmaceutical reps into their offices, and those that do give them just 2 minutes of their time. In fact, pharmaceutical companies are spending over $1 billion a year trying to get those pharmaceutical reps into the offices of the doctors that don't want to see them. So why don't those doctors want to see them? Well, we don't want the used car salesman approach. These pharmaceutical reps will turn up, they'll be armed with pamphlets and samples, a free lunch. They might offer to take you out to a fancy dinner, maybe a trip to the golf course, but that's not what we want. Maybe the fancy dinner, but you know what I mean. That sounded less canned when I practiced it before. So if you ask doctors, more than 80% of them don't feel that they don't feel satisfied by the interactions that they have with pharmaceutical companies. And if you ask them why, they'll cite getting irrelevant information from them through inappropriate communication channels. So why don't those doctors want to see them? Well, we don't want to be sold to. Pharmaceutical companies are spending billions of dollars researching diseases to better understand them and manufacture drugs that change people's lives, if not save them. That's what we want to know about. We want to know about the science. We want to know more about the disease and why that drug is actually the better drug to treat that patient. And for anyone in the audience who works in pharma, I'm sorry if I'm giving you the impression that it's all about you. It's not. It's also about us. We're busy. We are notoriously burnt out. In any given day, we have so many different things competing for our attention. From admin and billing, from running your own practice, through to furthering your medical education, EHRs, which are the bane of every single doctor's existence, leaves very little time for you to see your patients, and that's the primary reason that you went into medicine in the first place. So on those days when you're trying to juggle all of these competing demands, when a pharmaceutical rep turns up at your door, that's the last person that you really have time for. So that's the problem. Now what's the solution? Well, we're just like everyone else. We're on our phones. Doctors spend over 90 minutes a day using their phones to look up drug interactions, stay up to date with research, connect with colleagues. I don't need to tell this audience that retail is marketing to their customers where they are. They're reaching them on their personal devices. Just healthcare hasn't caught up yet. And I think people will agree that people often say that healthcare is about 15 years behind every other industry, and obviously that's framed in a very negative light, but it also means that we know what the future looks like, and we know what's going to work. So, if you want a doctor's attention, get them where they are. Get them on their phones and give them information that's valuable to them, information that they want. And that's something that we do with pharmaceutical companies at Figure One. And when you digitize all of these things, you digitize admin and billing and EHRs, CME, and when you digitize the pharmaceutical interactions, you're leaving doctors with more time for what matters most, their patients.
Thank you so much, Sharon. I hope that was correct. So any questions? We've got about 3 minutes here. There has to be one question. We're transforming a huge industry that's critical to our lives.
Do I understand correctly that the pharmaceutical companies are your clients?
So we have a number of different industries that are our clients, including governmental bodies such as the Department of Defense and the CDC. But yes, we work a lot with pharmaceutical companies.
Hi there. You mentioned that healthcare is like 15 years behind. So how do you disrupt that mindset?
So the Figure 1 provides doctors and other healthcare professionals with teachable moments. People are using social media in every single aspect of their lives, and medical education is pretty boring. It hasn't innovated. The medical curriculum hasn't really changed in the terms of its delivery, and what we provide is a way for doctors and other healthcare professionals to share medical education with each other from the front lines. So let's say a doctor sees a patient with something really, really interesting that they typically wouldn't see. They can share that and teach their colleagues by sharing the case on Figure 1. And it's as simple as creating a post on social media that people are so used to doing. You take a picture, you add a caption, you share it, and you're instantly teaching a huge community of healthcare professionals.
Hi there, here.
Hi.
Just curious as to where sampling fits, because I know one of the main reasons why even the no-see physicians want to see a rep is because they want them to drop off the samples and not tell them anything about the drugs and just get out. I may be speaking from personal experience. So how do you handle this? Is that part of your solution at all, the sampling side?
No. So what we do when we work with pharmaceutical companies, and as I mentioned, we have like a number of industries that we work with, one of which is pharma. We're working with the medical affairs teams that are looking to teach doctors about the disease itself. So we're working with those companies in unbranded disease awareness campaigns. So let's say there's a company that has a drug for psoriasis. Patients could be turning up at a dermatologist's door. That dermatologist doesn't necessarily know how to best diagnose that patient. They don't know enough about the disease to recognize the patient that has that. And so we work with those companies to educate doctors in an unbranded way to make sure that when a patient does turn up with a disease, you can better recognize it.
But if you want a sample...
Oh, thanks. Hi, it's Chris. I'm a CIO and CISO, and I help organizations go into digital. I just have a question in relation to the health information, because under eHealth Ontario, that PHI, private health information, when they share it on a public platform, has to be consented to by the patient. How do you handle that in your platform?
So absolutely right, and that's like the biggest concern that was there from the very first day that Figure 1 was even thought of. So there's no private health information on Figure 1. We follow HIPAA, which is the most stringent guideline in the world around private healthcare information. None of that makes it onto Figure 1. There's no names, there's no dates of birth, no hospital numbers. It's really just the patient's case, their age, if it's appropriate, and what it is they presented with and their past medical history. So none of that information is there. And really, Figure 1 was one of the primary reasons that Figure 1 was founded was because people were already sharing patient cases. They weren't doing it in a safe way. They were emailing cases, they were texting them, and that did contain personal health information. And so the solution of using Figure 1 means that that concern is eliminated.
Awesome. Thank you so much.